So the healing is never going to be a one size fits all. And I think the beauty industry and the medical component to that have made us believe this lie that it's a one size fits all. And it's just this one pill, this one wig, this one PRP, this one laser cap, this one serum, this one lotion, potion, shampoo, when it's never one thing. It's more than one thing. It's multiple factors. And we have to look at all of them in order to get the true healing that we crave and desire and deserve.
Welcome to Harmonic Alignment, a podcast that explores the new frontier of energy medicine, bridging the gap between Western medicine and quantum physics, giving you easy and practical solutions. Guided by me, Dr. Larisa Sharipova, and me, Priscilla Koblenz. Join us on a journey discovering your harmonic alignment. On today's episode of Harmonic Alignment, we have a special treat. It's episode 50. We are so excited to be on this journey, and our guest today represents the whole reason that we do this. People have inspiring stories to tell, and we can all learn something from everyone's story. And so on today's podcast, Dr. Larisa Sharipova interviews Johanna Dahlman, the Alopecia Angel. Johanna went on her own health journey. She unraveled alopecia, and now she completely reversed it and is helping others in over 67 different countries do this. This is a woman on a mission. And what we love about her is that she takes our view on health, and that is, it is an individualized, holistic approach. So every person's hair loss journey is unique, just like every person's health journey is unique. And she is tailoring her approach to each client and each individual. It's an inspiring podcast. She's worked at Apple and has been a public speaker. And now she has taken her passion and problem solving to helping people optimize their health and wellness. And even it leads to increased fertility. There's so many health problems that can be addressed, and hair loss is just a symptom. And this is just a really great understanding of that journey. So enjoy today's episode.
Welcome to Harmonic Alignment Podcast. My guest today is Johanna Dahlman, health and high performance hair growth coach. Thank you for joining me, Johanna.
Thank you so much for having me. I love being here with you.
You must have some personal story that led you on a path of becoming high performance hair growth coach. Can you share it with our audience?
Yes, absolutely. I was diagnosed with alopecia areata while I was at the salon getting my highlights done. And I was in my early 30s and was at the prime of my life with amazing hair, health. I had a personal trainer, living in Miami, tan, and just really enjoying life until that fateful day of being diagnosed in the hair salon. And the only thing that my hairdresser, who's known me since I'm 13, tells me is that, Johanna, you need to go see a doctor. And that was actually one of the biggest mistakes that I have heard someone tell me. And because I've known him for, 2 decades or more, I believed him. And so I went to go see doctor after doctor after doctor after doctor in the Netherlands and in the US, trying to figure out my alopecia, trying to figure out if Google was actually right, if there truly was no cure, if there truly was no hope for me to get my hair back. At the time, I had just left Apple Computers, had worked with them for many years, and the way we think and the way we do things is different. They're very out of the box thinking, and they're very results and solution oriented. And so when doctor after doctor, dermatologist after dermatologist kept telling me, hey, you know what? You need steroids, you need cortisone shots, you need minoxidil, you need this, you need that. I said no to all of that. At the time, I also had just met my future husband. We wanted to have children. And so the priority was starting a family. It wasn't necessarily using a bunch of medications and rolling the dice on the side effects or on the ramifications of that. After 4 years of investigation, research, trial and error, and being my own scientist, I finally healed naturally. And the beauty of healing naturally, even though it was a very slow and grueling process, was that I became pregnant and had my first baby at 40, naturally, on the first try. No IVF, no nothing. Everything was natural. And I truly believe is that I upgraded my health to the point where everything else was upgraded too. And so the fear of getting pregnant or even starting a family at 40 was never something that I had worried about. I had full hair growth. All the symptoms that were related with hair loss had vanished. And these are symptoms that were never there before my alopecia. They came as a result of the alopecia, everything from fatigue to brain fog to lack of motivation to lethargy to dry eyes, dry skin, to itchy scalp, to digestive issues, to insomnia, and so many other symptoms just piled on top of the hair loss. And in many ways, I was in denial, because you just see this little small bald spot and you think, oh, it'll grow back. And it didn't. Then I had another and another and another. And then they just started connecting and it started getting worse. I ended up losing over 50% of my hair, eyelashes, eyebrows, and an extra inch of forehead. That's how bad it got. And I was moving into totalis, which all of it was very scary. But then once I understood what I needed to do and started becoming methodical and strategic, then everything kind of shifted and I started healing and this veil of symptoms left. And I finally regrew my hair. And since then, it's been more than 8 years alopecia free. And now I help people around the world in 67 countries heal and reverse their alopecia naturally.
Wow, amazing story. Thank you for sharing and being vulnerable. For people who don't know what alopecia is, if you can explain about alopecia so you can educate our listeners.
Absolutely. Alopecia is the medical term for hair loss. And the most common type of hair loss is female pattern or male pattern baldness, which is androgenic. And this has a genetic component, as most people know, understand, and maybe think of when you hear of androgenic. However, this too can be helped in a very natural and holistic way. The type of alopecia that I had was autoimmune. So this is the actual follicle attacking itself. There's over 100 different types of autoimmune diseases. The autoimmune alopecia has 3 stages. You start with alopecia areata, and you can graduate to alopecia totalis. Alopecia areata is having hair everywhere, but bald spots start to appear. They can appear in your beard as a man, they can appear on your head, and they can even appear on your body. In terms of alopecia totalis, this is where you still have hair on your body, but you go completely bald. This can happen for men, women, children of any age, race, or ethnicity. There is no discrimination here. And when it comes to alopecia universalis, which is that last tier, this is where you're completely bald everywhere. There's no hair anywhere on the body, on the face, on the scalp. So as you heal from universalis, you actually go through totalis, you go through areata, and then you go back to being whole again. And so this is easily reversed naturally and holistically. The type of medications that goes along with this diagnosis is normally cortisone shots, immune suppressant JAK inhibitors, or minoxidil is normally recommended for both men and women, either orally or topically for androgenic alopecia. The thing about medications, pharmaceuticals, and even just hair loss meds in general is that 1, it's a toxin. B, they're chemicals. C, they tend to backfire. And so even if you've been on minoxidil and it's giving you results, or even if you've been on JAK inhibitors and they've given you results, at some point, they will backfire because, again, there's only so much that your body can withstand. The immunosuppressants aren't healthy because they're suppressing your immune system, opening you up to a second or a third autoimmune disease. And that's the scary part. A lot of times I see clients and they have, let's say, androgenic alopecia, female pattern baldness, plus IBS, plus Crohn's, plus rheumatoid arthritis, plus Hashimoto's. And so you don't necessarily have to have the autoimmune hair loss to have an autoimmune disease. 25% of people who have one autoimmune disease go on to acquire a second and a third. And so these are staggering numbers. And I've seen 3 autoimmune diseases in 6-year-olds. I've seen them in adults. And so again, autoimmune diseases don't discriminate. And the only way to truly reverse them is to look at the root cause, to have a root cause approach, because even if we all had the same alopecia, all the same autoimmune alopecia areata, the healing aspect of it, the root causes, the whys, the reasons, and how we go about creating the change that we need to see so that we can have the hair growth and the health will still look different. And so this is something that medicine cannot bottle up and sell you. It can never be a one size fits all. It has to be tailored to each person in order for you to heal, because my reasons will probably look different to the next person, and also the stage of life. The thing is, when you start thinking about healing hair loss and reversing it, you have to take the person's goals, current situation into consideration. I've dealt with people who are breastfeeding and who want to maintain the breast milk and heal. I've dealt with women in menopause, people post-menopause in their 80s and still want to heal and see hair growth. When you're dealing with children, this is also going to look different. So the healing is never going to be a one size fits all. And I think the beauty industry and the medical component to that have made us believe this lie that it's a one size fits all, and it's just this one pill, this one wig, this one PRP, this one laser cap, this one serum, this one lotion, potion, shampoo, when it's never one thing. It's more than one thing. It's multiple factors, and we have to look at all of them in order to get the true healing that we crave and desire and deserve.
And most of the time, autoimmune is different for everyone, and it's multifactorial, as you said. Do you see any commonality in what's the root cause for hair loss?
Well, if we were going to generalize, it would be two buckets. It would be the diet and the lifestyle component. But diet and lifestyle look so different for everybody. You know, I have clients in India who are straight vegan or vegetarian, whereas we have Europeans and Americans and Canadians who, you know, could be vegan, vegetarian, pescatarian, meat eaters. It all is going to look different for everybody. And that's just the diet portion of it. And then you also have the hormonal aspect of it, right? Or let's say ancillary health conditions, because technically, and most common, as we get older, we tend to have more health concerns, right? These things start propping up out of nowhere, but it's really not of nowhere. It's because we've been neglecting our health for so long, where now it's actually a bigger issue. And this is why we now have to handle it. Many clients come to me with 2 and 3 autoimmune diseases, and then they start to see the hair loss. Only then do they want to do something about it, because the hair loss affects them. It affects their personal appearance. It affects their work, their hobbies, their relationships, how they date, how they show up at work, as parents or as grandparents. And it really does affect them. I have so many client interviews on my podcast where you can hear how the man who's 50, who's an executive salesperson, it was affecting him because you can't wear a hat to work. You have to wear a suit. You have to be presentable. Yes, you can shave your beard, but you can't be shaving your beard and your head because of alopecia, right? Or, you know, it affects the elementary school teacher who has to show up, and her kids potentially are poking fun at her because she has alopecia areata. So to say that, are there commonalities? Little commonalities here and there, but this is also saying that, okay, we're all humans. We all have a beating heart. We all have lungs and skin and hair and all these other biological effects. However, the effort is going to look different. The application, where we live, what we want to eat, what we don't want to eat, and of course, the other ancillary health conditions and health goals also make us different. And so that in it of itself creates a nuanced formula for you to heal, for you to actually see and bypass what you've been told, what you've been hearing for the entirety of your life in terms of what's possible for you. And I say this because many times clients come to me with scarring alopecia, and they've been rejected by so many doctors saying, I can't do anything for you. Go home. Like, there's nothing here for you. There's no medication. There's nothing. You have scarring alopecia. It's this type. It's only going to get worse. You're going to go bald. And so as a last resort, they take a natural holistic approach, seeing that the medications aren't working, that the doctors are rejecting them, and they have no other option but to try a natural alternative. Once they do, they actually see revitalized hair, revitalized health, and they see progress. And so this is the beauty of really focusing on a biological avenue of really upgrading your health from a cellular aspect all the way up.
Specifically for you, when you were diagnosed with, or when you progressed to more and more spots, how was your emotional state at that time?
The emotional and the mental health aspect of it was absolutely horrible, horrific. I think that was probably the hardest part for me. You're seeing yourself become less and less of yourself, but the onslaught of all these symptoms come over you. I've always been very energetic, outgoing, positive, and all these characteristics and qualities that I had became to shed off like dead skin. Like I couldn't come into that bucket of optimism and try to pull it in because it wasn't working as much as I tried, because it was 4 long years. So yes, my mental self-esteem, my emotional health all took a hit, a big hit, because in my case, I was lonely. My friends and family didn't know how to help me or support me. My fiance slash husband didn't know how to support me except for take pictures behind my head. And I think really silence was probably the best from everybody, because when no one knows how to help you, they're just quiet. They don't ask. They don't want to know. They don't want to open up that can of worms because they know that it's absolutely devastating on all levels. And at a point in my life where I was in my 30s, essentially in my prime, about to get married and, have this next stage of my life, none of it was the way I envisioned it, right? Instead of like being excited to get married, which I was also though crying on the floor and trying to figure out like what's happening. And so I became my own scientist. I became my own researcher. But I will say that is the biggest challenge, is the mental aspect of everything, and in the emotional aspect. I had to reaffirm myself daily, multiple times a day, that I was going to get through this, that I was going to heal, I was going to find a way. And, I had an inner knowing, there was intuition, and it just didn't make sense that if I always had hair, big curly hair, as you see now, for over 30 years, why would it all of a sudden just go away? It just didn't make sense to me. The fact that I was born with hair and I always had big hair, I could get it back. I always knew I could get it back. I just didn't know the how. And so once I started peeling the pieces like an onion, little by little, and trialing and error, researching, investigation, it took me the 4 years. I remember it one day, I just woke up, went to the bathroom, looked at myself in the mirror, and I saw a glimpse of who I was before. It's almost hard to describe, because who I was seeing for the last 4 years was not me. I was never unmotivated. I was never lazy. I was never lacking energy. I had insomnia, had brain fog, had memory loss. It was so much stress that it caused me memory loss to a certain degree. I was never unhealthy. I never had a second or a third autoimmune disease. I never had a history of anything. And so this was very perplexing, very confusing, and I was very distraught about everything. But again, once I started peeling these layers, I woke up one day and I saw and felt that the person who I was looking at in the mirror was ever so slightly better, ever so slightly healing, and maybe not necessarily seeing the hair growth, but I felt it. It was like the energy was back. I was better. I was clearer, and I could just feel better. And then day by day, it got better, 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 and better. And I was like, okay, I'm on it. I'm on the train of healing. It's almost like you remember things differently, and you're like, okay, the old Johanna's coming back. She's coming back. I feel it. And so I just kept doing, and I was very consistent with what I was doing, making notes, and very discriminate with all my journaling and all the tactics that I've been doing, all the techniques and tools that I was using. And that's what gave me back my hair, my health, and my sanity. Because I will say, for a lot of people with alopecia, it's very distressing, to the point where many people commit suicide, to the point where mental health takes a hit, to the point where there is no return. And so I think this is the hardest pill to swallow, is that when you are diagnosed, as I was in the salon, and I'm Googling on my phone, like, what is alopecia? Since I had never heard of this term before, and I didn't know what this was, or what this looked like, or what the outcome would be, to see that there's no cure, that the doctors are saying to me that there's no cure, that there's no outlet, that, there's nothing out there, it really hurt in many ways, because I was like, this can't be, this is a lie. How is the hairstylist diagnosing me, telling me this, and I'm Googling it, and it's telling me there's like no help, no cure, no nothing? This is impossible. I did not want to believe it. And thankfully, I'm very strong-willed, and very to say, like, I'm not going to accept this as truth or my future or my destiny. If there's something that I'm going to change, I'll change it all. I'll eat anything, I'll do anything to make this go away. And I did. and it works.
When you saw yourself in the mirror, it's like universe sent you a message that there is a hope, right? You can do it. So how did you find out what specifically you need to do?
I actually have a master's degree, and so I know about PubMed and I know about really data-driven research. And so that's where my library, my encyclopedia was coming from. Google is good and bad. It's a double-edged sword because there's so much misinformation, there's so much contradictory information. And that's the first thing that I help my clients with, is deciphering the misinformation and then almost testing them. Like, this is what they're saying. Now tell me, is any of this true? And is it true for you? And is it true within your circumstances? And so there's ways to decipher it. But if you don't know how to, then you don't know what to believe. Once I became really smart on everything, then I knew exactly what was true, what wasn't true, what's hype, what's media driven, and what isn't. And so this is the beauty of understanding more than what the authors are writing. So within these 4 years, I feel like I got a PhD in alopecia. So
before you share your story and what you've done for yourself, let's talk about misconception and myth about the hair loss and alopecia.
I love this topic. So there's a bunch of hair myths, and one of them is that your hair loss is due to your age. And I think that this is completely nonsense. This really has more to do on your daily habits, your diet and lifestyle, what you're doing to promote health and wellness, because that is definitely interconnected with hair growth. I, in my mid-40s today, can grow an inch of hair a month, and I track this with my highlights and my grays, but more so my highlights. Google tells you average is half an inch, maybe max. Well, I'm above average, so anyone can be above average. Anyone can be an Olympian. Anyone can choose to grow their hair at a higher rate. We could also choose to build muscle, to learn 5 languages, to travel the world. We can choose many things, and it's all about what we're doing and the effort to get there. And so in my case, I have everything in place so that my hair just keeps growing.
With mine, I am like in menopause and my hair grows over an inch. So it all depends what you put in your body. And this is a representation. It's like your biomarker, right? How healthy your body is. Same with his nails, same with his skin.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's the thing. You can really tell of someone's health just by looking at their skin, their hair, and their nails, whether it's thick and abundant or whether it's really thin, scraggly, brittle, dry. You can see so much just by looking on the outside. And it's not about beauty, but it's about just the wellness in general of it. You can really see health within someone's skin. I'm sure people have seen, whether traveling on the bus or on the trains, where you see people with a yellow tinge or maybe a darker gray almost look to their skin. And those are all indicators of health, whether good or bad. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder, but at the same time, it's also a mirror representative of your overall health and wellness. The glowing skin, all of this contributes to it. Going back to alopecia, it is very unique for each person. Even if we all had female pattern baldness, even if we all had the same type of hair loss, but there is a way out, but it just has to be a tailored custom approach. Another myth that I'd like to dispel is that there is no cure. I touched upon this here earlier, but doctors and medical textbooks say there's no cure, and it's because we don't have one pill, one serum, one shampoo, one thing that will heal everybody the same way. And so that's a big one too, because there is a cure, but for you and for me and for your mom and sister and brother, it will always look different because we're all different. Even if you had a pair of twins, it's going to look different. They've actually shown this in studies because they can monitor genetics and epigenetics over the course of twins, and following them for 50, 60, 70 years, one twin undoubtedly is healthier than the other. And that goes by choice again. And so we have the choice and the freedom to choose better for us or bad for us. And so there's also consequences with that.
And the environment where we live in and creating an environment for ourselves.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Environment is a big one too. Another hair myth is that, there's certain types of alopecia, like scarring or like female pattern baldness, that like, oops, it's your genetics and there's nothing more you can do. And to me, there's always more you can do. There's always more. And that's why we can, look at Olympians, like how far they've achieved. And, they can always strive. It's not going to be overnight. It's not going to be a quick fix, but they can achieve it. And so can we. And so if we have the mindset of wanting to improve a certain area of our life, including hair growth, I believe truly that it's possible. And the medications aren't necessary. The medications are actually hindering you, holding you back, giving you more health issues and concerns. Plus, the ramifications and the side effects to it are alarming. I mean, both for men and women, for fertility, for so many different aspects of our health that doesn't measure up.
Thank you for dispelling the myths and misconception. So what was your healing journey? What you've used and done and what you probably now implement with your clients?
So the beauty of healing is that it evolves with you. I am still in my early 40s, mid 40s, but I still also am looking at optimizing not just anti-aging, but then also fertility and also ensuring that my cycle is optimal too. I'd love to have a second child, so that's at the top of my head. And maybe not everyone at 44, 45 is looking to do that. And so this is also customized, right, to each person in terms of what I eat, what I'm not eating, supplements I'm taking, and diet and lifestyle in general. And so for people, let's say menopause and over, or even those, let's say in their 20s or younger, they're also not thinking necessarily on conceiving or having a second child. So again, tailored to them. But in my case, you look at all areas. You're looking at the diet component, which is big. You're looking at truly what is healthy, because there's so many foods out there that are marketed like it's the best thing for you. And truly for you, it could actually be toxic or it could actually be detrimental. So a couple of weeks ago, I had a gut health coach on my podcast, and she's in her 60s. She's been doing gut health and helping people in Australia with gut health for over 20 years. But she's also had hair loss for over 20 years. And just with a handful of recommendations that I gave her, her hair loss stopped in 24 hours. And it's magical, you would say, unbelievable, but it happened. Sometimes we're training for this marathon and we just need one more thing, two more things, three more things to change to really give us that edge, that 10%, that 1%, that 5% edge of achieving our goal. And this is exactly how I saw it with this gut health coach, is that she was so focused on gut health and everything else in her life. But even then, she had a couple things wrong in her diet, healthy, but wrong for her. It turned off this leaky faucet of hair loss in just 24 hours. She couldn't believe it.
One person food, it's another poison, right? So it's very individual and based on our predisposition from genetic standpoint, our childhood trauma, the stress in life, the environment, the toxins that we ingest and damage our cells. And so it's a lot of different things. So can you tell me more about your approach to clients, working with clients?
Yes. At Alopecia Angel, we definitely have a root cause approach. We offer worldwide functional medicine testing. So these are gold standard testing. These aren't tests that you'll get from your healthcare providers. You'll definitely pay out of pocket. And even for the expats or people who live in other countries, this is a huge bonus, because as an expat myself, when I was living abroad, I didn't have access to this because there's so much red tape in terms of trying to get access or trying to work with somebody who actually knows what they're doing or has access to the testing, that I do provide this because it was such an issue. And I will say that 50% of my clients or more, give or take, actually heal without the need of testing. Testing is wonderful. It's a great tool, but it's not necessarily always necessary. We do have an intake form. It's 12 pages long. So I'm looking at the client, past, present, and future, what they want, what other ancillary situations, health concerns they have, what things that they want to do. Ladies in their late 30s maybe are still wanting to conceive. In their 40s are still wanting to conceive. So it just all depends on what stage of life you're at. And then through this, we evaluate, create recommendations, and then each person is on their individual path of healing. And so it's a beautiful way to start the process, to get going, and to have the support worldwide via email, via coaching calls. and have lifetime access to the program, because it evolves with you. We're not always going to be 12 years old. We're not always going to be in our 40s. So it evolves with you and at that stage of life that you need.
Is it involve mostly lifestyle, nutrition and supplementation, or something else?
It's diet, lifestyle, it's supplementation, it's testing. It's also looking at blind spots, because the thing is, a lot of times people are in denial. They're in denial that something is harming them. And there's so many different blind spots. What I've seen recently is that there's a lot of clients, especially the international ones, where they come to me and they're like, well, I've been working with a gut health coach for 6 years, but nothing's happening. There's no results. And all the testing shows that it's fine. Well, there's a couple problems with that. First, the type of testing that they're using is substandard. It's very generic, maybe superficial, and it's not getting to the heart of the matter. The other aspect of it is that if you or anyone has been working with somebody to achieve a situation, and it's taken them 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, 6 years, you need to change providers. This person is not getting you the results, and staying with them is not getting you those results, and it won't. So one of two things: either there's a gap in knowledge or in expertise, or both. Not everyone can help you. Just like on a fertility journey, not everyone can help you. And you would think it's so easy, it's just intercourse and that's it. It's not just intercourse. There's so much to it for both men and women. It's 50% each, right? And it's not just about age. It's also about sperm quality. It's also about the deficiencies, what you're taking, what you're not taking, how this affects you, your ancillary health conditions. Fertility is a big thing, and not every acupuncturist is going to be able to get you to, the finish line. Not every functional medicine doctor is going to be able to get you to the finish line. And IVF is maybe not even the answer either. So the thing is, it's like you have to see with a very discriminatory eye, like who can help you, who cannot help you, where you're wasting your time. My heart goes out to all the internationals, because I've been there. I've been there. I've dealt with the healthcare systems abroad, and it's very, very frustrating not to get straight answers, to only have professionals go by textbook and say, sorry, there's nothing you can do. So for example, when I was diagnosed with alopecia, I was living in the Netherlands, and the first thing I did was go see my regular doctor there. And she said to me, as you see me now, with no ponytail, no nothing, she's like, stop wearing your hair in a ponytail. I almost wanted to smack her, because this bald spot was in the back of my head. If I had the bald spot here or here at my temples or in my receding hairline, maybe I'd consider what she said was true and accurate. None of what she told me was true and accurate. The worst part is, like, there was no follow-up. There was no next steps. There was no seeing a specialist. There was no nothing. Like, sorry, you have alopecia, like, live with it. And this mindset of like, there's nothing you can do, I've got nothing for you, is not a reflection of you and your determination. It's really a reflection of that healthcare system and that doctor either not having the knowledge, expertise, or even the desire to help you. And so I think us as patients, consumers, we need to be really alert of who wants to help, who has the willingness to help, who has results, look for them, ask for them. Testimonials, before and after pictures. Like, do you have the results? Yes? Okay, great. Let's work together. If not, then no. And so we need to be really honest, I think, as practitioners, but then also as consumers, we need to be honest with ourselves, because every Joe, Jane, and Jack wants to help, but not everyone can. And I go back to fertility because it's a maze. It's an absolute maze trying to understand, like, who can, prescribe hormones, who can't, can the acupuncturist really help you? No, they can't. Is it beneficial for you? Absolutely. Is chiropractic care great for you? Yes, that too. But these are like, icing on the cake. This isn't the full cake. If you're at a certain age, first thing you need to do in terms of fertility is look at those hormones. Even in hair loss, looking at hormones is a great starting point. Looking at thyroid, a full thyroid panel is a great starting point, because this could be hiding and lurking. The number one autoimmune disease is Hashimoto's, and it tends to be undiagnosed in women. 20% of people get Hashimoto's right after a pregnancy. And so these are things that we need to be looking at, and how to prevent, support the body during these marathon type of times. Having a baby is not an easy feat. It's It's a huge biological change and shift. I mean, I gave birth to a 10-pound baby naturally with a midwife. So, I mean, that alone was a marathon and a half. And I will tell you that, baby was fine. I was fine and everything was great. But at the same time, not everyone's experience will be that.
And because you already prepare your body through healing all your autoimmune and make your body more fertile, that's why you could get pregnant, because you give the body whatever body needs to get pregnant. I had problem with infertility as well until I detox my body from toxins that were affecting that. It was easy after that. So you need to find out what's the reason, what's the root cause of the problem, and remove that. And when we remove something that our body doesn't need and give our body what's needed, then everything has become much easier. And sometimes it's a multiple factors and not only one practitioner that can help you, but maybe multiple practitioners, and all of them can benefit like a puzzle piece, right? And our health is the puzzle. Sometimes we have to find those pieces that need to fit in our specific situation, our condition and our environment, the age, and a lot of different things that go into that. Maybe you can share some successful story with us.
Yes, I have so many success stories. I have before and after pictures galore on my website and also on my podcast with interviews directly from the clients and, their journeys and how they've healed, whether it's from autoimmune, androgenic, or scarring alopecia, people who've been suffering and dealing with this for a lot longer than me. These are women and children who've been dealing with this for decades, and they see hair growth in less than 8 weeks by working with me. And this is the beauty of supporting the body. This is the beauty of really understanding and how to upgrade the body from the ground up and giving the body a reset, a reboot, and also the foundation that it needs to thrive. Whether it's children who have had alopecia universalis, they see hair growth in less than 8 weeks, but then have full coverage on average between 6 to 8 months. Whether it's adults who just want their beard back, or let's say women who have alopecia totalis or universalis, they too can heal. And the interesting aspect of the clients who I've worked with is that they're so different. It's not just the countries and the nationalities that make them different, because I've helped people in 67 countries, but it's also where they live and their lifestyle. So when I say lifestyle, this is a big bucket. I've worked with women who have hair loss, but live on a cruise ship because they're entertainers, they're ice skaters. So imagine living on a cruise ship for 9 months, or let's say young adults who are at school away at the dorm. So they're eating cafeteria food and they're eating all these things and having dorm life. There's also adults who actually travel for work so much that they live in a hotel. And so this too is what I've encountered. Or, you have people who live on farms, you have people who are retired, people who are living off of Social Security, who are in their 80s. So I've dealt with clients who are 8 months old, breastfeeding and only breastfeeding, all the way to 80 years old plus. And so regardless of the age, where you come from, or the race, your diet, your lifestyle, or anything else, this can be supported and this can be optimized. And I think that's the biggest takeaway, is that it can be supported, it can be optimized, and regardless of the hair loss type, because I know dermatologists, they like to put you in a bucket. Oh, you have eczema, let's put you in this bucket. You have alopecia areata, let's put you in this bucket. You have scarring alopecia, traction alopecia, we're going to put you in this bucket. I don't see people by their type of hair loss. I see them as them. And I think that's also the difference here, is that you are more than your hair loss. You are more than the current situation, because this current situation can be rectified. It's really about looking at the bigger picture and seeing where we can improve.
So what would you tell a person who just was diagnosed or struggling with that diagnosis for many, many years, where to start?
I would say start on the holistic path, start on diet and lifestyle, start doing your research. There's a bunch of free PDFs in my podcast, on my website. I would say going the medical route is a black hole for hair loss. I love medicine for many things. It's great for surgery. It's great to sew me up after giving birth to a 10-pound baby. It's great for a lot of things. However, for hair loss, Again, there is no pill, no injection, no serum, no nothing that they can provide that will give you long-term, long-lasting hair growth. It won't, and it'll end up backfiring or giving you a negative side effect of some sort. And so you might as well avoid it and go the natural route. The thing is, when I look at hair loss, I think of it as a engine light that has come on to your car. You know, it's the check engine light, and it's giving you a warning. It's giving you a warning to say, hey, look at me. Hey, notice me. Let's do something about it. Let's go, look underneath the hood. Let's get a diagnostic. Let's look further, deeper. Because what the beauty industry has made us believe is that when we have hair loss, this check engine light is going on. They want us to get a detail. They want us to get a car wash. We're looking and trying to fix it from on top, from the superficial aspect of it, with the lotions, with the minoxidils, with the shampoos and, the specialty serums and this and that, when that's not it. That's not it. And so you need to look deeper. You need to be investigative and really do your research to see who can help you and ask for those proven results. It was the biggest learning lesson, having seen so many doctors. And because I was in between two countries, traveling back and forth and no health insurance in either one, because I was barely moving to the Netherlands. So it takes time to get your health insurance and all that stuff up and running. Seeing so many doctors out of pocket, trying to see what was good, better, and best led me to no one had the answers. And the only thing that I could really garner was a buffet of cortisone shots or a buffet of pharmaceuticals. But because I wanted to get pregnant, which I did at 40 naturally, and on the first try, was that avoiding these would have helped me, and it did help me get pregnant easy. Had I gone the medical route, had I gone and said, okay, yeah, let's do a year of cortisone shots. Yeah, let's do the JAK inhibitors. Let's do this, let's do that. I know I would have been worse off. I know probably by now I would have been bald. And I'm so happy I took the long way route, right? There are no shortcuts to healing. I will say that there are no shortcuts, whether it's weight loss or anything else. And even for those of you on Ozempic or Wegovy, there's side effects to that. I actually have a free PDF on my website of all the medications that cause hair loss. And just with looking at this PDF, maybe there's something there that you're taking that causes hair loss. And there's so many different medications out there that cause hair loss, from SSRIs to birth control to Wegovy, Ozempic, and to all different types of thyroid meds cause hair loss as well. Maybe there's something there that is causing your hair loss indirectly. And so these are what I call blind spots, and we all have them. I've dealt and worked with functional medicine doctors, nutritionists, personal trainers, dietitians, clinical nutritionists, nurses, pharmacists, you name it, the gamut of healthcare providers who themselves are dealing with hair loss. They come to me and we figure out their blind spots. And the problem is like sometimes when you're in it, you don't know. You need someone else to point them out. It's just like if I had spinach in my teeth, I wouldn't know because I'm just eating my dinner. But if you're there looking at me, you're like, hey, Johanna, you've got spinach in your teeth. Sometimes you just don't know until you do.
Yeah. So how people can find you, the PDF that you said on your website, and what other areas that people can connect with you and maybe work with you?
Yes, alopeciaangel.com. You could find me there on Instagram and Facebook. It's Alopecia Angel. You can also find me on YouTube. My podcast is Alopecia Angel, Awaken to Hair Growth. Those free PDFs are right on the homepage. You can just click and download them directly. Plus, there's a lot of information on the podcast, which is really wonderful to hear because A, there's hope, B, there's optimism, and C, there's results. There's, a proven formula with the client testimonials, their stories, how they got here, and how they gave their bodies the chance to heal and be supported. And once they did, they saw the results.
Thank you, Johanna, for your amazing story and for everything that you do in the world and helping people to heal their devastating disease. Thank you very much for being on our podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed this.
Are you ready for your Energy for Life bioenergetic nest scan? Dr. Larisa Sharapova and myself, Priscilla Koblentz, offer personal, private, 90-minute consults to get you back to optimal health and well-being. For more details, visit the show notes or check out harmonicalignment.co. We hope you enjoyed today's episode of Harmonic Alignment. If something resonated with you, we would love to hear about it. Please consider leaving us a 5-star review and subscribing so you don't miss an upcoming episode. Thank you. The information contained in this podcast is provided for informational purposes only and not intended for the purpose of diagnosing, treating, curing, or preventing any disease. Before using any products referenced on the podcast, consult with your healthcare provider. Carefully read all labels and directions. The products and information received through the podcast should not be used to replace a consultation or advice from your healthcare provider. If you suspect you have a medical problem or have any healthcare questions, please promptly call your healthcare provider. This podcast, including Dr. Larisa and Priscilla Koblenz, and the producers are not responsible for any possible adverse effects from the use of information contained in this podcast. This podcast may contain endorsements and advertisements for products or services. Individuals on this podcast may have a direct financial benefit to the product or services referenced.